twins. 95 years ago, there was a small village called Shades. This village was in KwaZulu-Natal, one of the top 5 big provinces of South Africa. Population was about 400 to 500 people. It was well known for its rules. The chiefs of that time were respected and citizens obeyed every rule. There was a huge punishment for those who did not obey the rules, including expulsion from the area. During that time, there were no cars or any modern way of transportation except horses and donkeys who were used to pull wooden carriages. One of the rules was that there is no family who must have twins. If that incident happens, one of the twins must be killed by letting him swallow clay soil so that he will choke to death. It happened once every 5 years. As the population was increasing, it happened more frequently and at least once or twice a year. There was a couple that was married for 8 years with no children. Mr. and Mrs. Sithole started to be more concerned about this situation the moment they realized that there were only 2 people left in the family after the grandfather passed away. They tried everything to solve this problem, including talking to the ancestors and well-known traditional healers of that time. Few years passed. It was January when Mrs. Sithole was plowing the ground for crops. She noticed that her tummy was increasing and her breast too. Yes, finally, she was pregnant. She left early that day, leaving other village people plowing. She couldn't wait to tell her husband this wonderful news. As usual, her husband went for hunting, except that day he never returned home. She became very worried and suddenly went to her neighbor, Mrs. Khumalo. Mr. Khumalo was also not in his home. This issue became a new concern to the village until it turned out that all men went to a war with another village. Only 23 casualties returned. Mr. Sithole, Mr. Khumalo and the rest died during that war. Mrs. Sithole was broken and stressed. Her pillar has fallen, her soulmate, her smile keeper, her home, her only true friend. First time in her marriage, she slept alone crying all night. She didn't even get a chance to bury her husband since all bodies were burned. She became a widow. The chief had 7 wives and 16 children, all were girls. It was clear that the royal family was falling apart since it was believed that female cannot lead their people. He was aging and having more kids was a concern to him in such a way that his 7th wife was believed to be barren. King Sibisi left for a visit to another royal family. The trip took about 3 days. While the king was away, Mrs. Sithole gave birth to twins, a girl and a boy. She was very happy and decided to keep both alive. The second woman to go against village rules after the first one who ended up dead. She kept this as a secret, even to her relatives, including her neighbor, Mrs. Khumalo. It became a huge problem keeping both of them alive since the community members would come to see the newborn. She decided to hide the boy inside the cave in forest. She would breastfeed him every night and morning while everyone was asleep. His name was Qawe and his sister was Qawekazi. A week passed and it was time for the king to return home after his unsuccessful trip to Hlatshwayo royal family. They denied him their daughter since he was too old. They thought he was talking on behalf of his son. It was the first time in history for this to happen. According to Chief Sibisi, Chief Hlatshwayo declared a war by this. He was very upset. As they were approaching Shades village, one of the regiment heard a baby crying. The king ordered them to search the forest. After a few minutes of search, one man shouted, "Wozani ngapha umfana," meaning, "Come over here, it's a boy." They gathered, and Chief Sbisi decided to keep the baby as his own, since no one in the community admitted to being the mother of the child. Breastfeeding him was a problem, however, he survived. After 9 years, the king was very sick, and Mrs. Sithole decided to confess, telling the king and the village about the twins. After Chief Sbisi heard these news, he changed the rule of the twins. Few weeks, he died. 10 years later, Kawe became the king of the Shades village.